first-year coach, associate head coach, running backs coach, special teams coordinator, and comes to us from Tennessee after 1 year and a very illustrious career with probably enough combined yardage from his backs to go from his recruiting spot in South Florida all the way to Tallahassee. We put all those guys together. But without further ado, we'll open it up for questions unless you have like to make an opening comment, Coach.
Good to be in Tallahassee.
Coach, Lane Hurt from Seminoles.com. Just talk about what made this the right move for you to make from Florida State.
I've been down in South Florida recruiting for, I guess I'm going on my 19th year now. And it was, I've always had it in the back of my mind what it would be like to recruit down there with one of the big three on my head. That hat. And I know how hard it was at Auburn for all those years, and when I did have to compete against a Florida State or Miami or Florida. So, us getting a little bit further south, it just seemed right with Jimbo. I knew that recruiting against him down in South Florida, he and I having to compete against each other when he was at LSU with Nick, I knew what he could do on offense. And I was excited about that. It just seemed the right fit. He needed a running back coach, and he needed a special teams coordinator, and he needed somebody in South Florida to recruit. So it just everything aligned just right.
Ira Schofield, the Democrat. When you talk about Jimbo and his, I guess you guys crossed paths through the years. Was there anything about like his approach in terms of either schematically or just otherwise that made you attractive? Like what attracted you?
You know what? I was with Will Muschamp at that time too. Will was our defensive coordinator, so they were together at LSU. So it was kind of fun to watch those guys go against each other. And he tried to figure out what Jimbo was doing. He's so multiple in what he's doing offensively, and a lot of the stuff that we're doing offensively we can sell to a recruit because it is an NFL system, multiple formations, and then what we're doing conceptually in the run game and the pass game. And a lot of people are in just that spread offense now, and that's not helping some, as you're seeing articles and helping certain individuals that are now going on to the NFL. It's not helping them. And so I think it's something that we can bring to the table in recruiting offensive players. And I think the other thing is his relentlessness. He's relentless on the road. I know recruiting against him, and you can see that right now as him being the head football coach. Just love being around that and that attitude and the discipline. All those things are very important to me too.
Coach Gene Williams, WarChant.com. You've been obviously very successful at Ole Miss, Auburn, Tennessee. What's your basic running back philosophy? What are you able to do to help these guys reach their potential?
I've been fortunate to be around a lot of good staffs, and what we've done is we've evaluated well. That's the first thing is I'm smart enough to know that great players make great coaches. You can be a part of that, nurturing, and you can develop them, but you got to go and evaluate. So we were fortunate to have some great players like Deuce McAllister, Rudy Johnson, Carnell, and the ones that I've coached. It's a running back. I think as you teach them the scheme and where they're supposed to be, a lot of their talent comes in their vision and making that cut that you just go, wow, that shouldn't have happened. But it's about being disciplined. You got to hold on to the football. Number one, you got to protect the football, because the single most, the greatest equalizer in football at any level is the turnover ratio and that turnover margin. So that's going to be very important to us. If you don't hold on to the football, you won't play. And the other thing is you got to protect the quarterback. Finding young running backs as they come from high school to the next level is the protection part of them, and we spend a lot of time on pass protection. Not only them learning it, but you've got to be able to protect your quarterback. After that, it's developing toughness. We're not going to run out of bounds. If you run out of bounds, it better be because we're in a 2-minute drill or the head football coach told you to. Other than that, you better not be running out of bounds. You better be dipping your shoulder, and you better have some crud in you. And in the fourth quarter, you don't want linebackers and safeties tackling you. And that's the mentality. When people turn on the film, that's what they should see from the running back room from Florida State University.
Follow up, you put out 1,000-yard rushes as a matter of course. I think it's been like a decade and a half here since they've had a running back rush for 1,000 yards. Is that something you're aware of coming in, something you want to hopefully see change?
I'm not a real big stat guy, you know. I want to win the football game. I think that would be great. I think, you know, we have goals, you know, and the goal is a 1,000-yard rusher here, always. You know, you want to do that. I think it's interesting. I always tell guys that, you know, Cornell and Ronnie averaged about 15 touches in 13 games, and they were the number 2 and number 5 pick in the draft. Never happened before in the history of the NFL, and only touched the ball 15 times. So, you know, it's about production. When it's all down to it, it's about production. When you look at a running back nowadays in the NFL, I think their span of life is about 2 years or less because of all the banging. So, you know, I think you gotta watch it, and you gotta be able to know how to get guys to the trough. You know, those great ones. So, I think the days of guys carrying it 35, 40 times a game, I don't see that anymore. You know, but there's definitely a lot of 1,000-yard rushers out there, and we've got to find that guy. So, but I'd like to have one, yeah. But you know, we'll see how it goes.
Jimbo's talked a lot about having a bigger backs and kind of a power mentality. What is it? Is there something different about having a powerful running back versus an elusive running back? And is it
Yeah, there's a little bit of difference. You know, I think when you get into that fourth quarter, you start grinding on people, and you get into the 4-minute drill when you have to win the game and you're up by 6, and you get in that 4-minute period where you got to get some first downs, and they're tired of tackling a guy that's 238 pounds, or Ronnie Brown, and but you know, you had a Carnell Williams that was 198 pounds, 205, that, you know, he could do the same thing. You know, it came about toughness. Pound for pound, Carnell was the toughest kid I ever coached. But, you know, as an Ole Miss, you know, you had Deuce McAllister that was 238, 240. And so the bigger, stronger, faster, that size-speed ratio, that is Jimbo's philosophy for this whole football team. So I think you've got a great running back that's 5'9", and he's got exceptional speed, and he does things that you know, that craziness that a little back can do, then you take him. You just can't have too many of them. So I think there is a balance and a change-up that you can give people with the big back, and then all of a sudden you throw that little back in there, and they might do things a little bit better in the pass game than those bigger guys do. So,
Coach Stoops, when we met with him last week, talked a lot about a fresh start, and obviously that makes a lot more sense with the defense because of the way they performed last year. But offensively, and particularly running backs, does Jermaine start out ahead because of what he's done in the past, or are you looking at those guys as
I think he does, just because that's the way it fell at the end of the year, but there is definitely